Alright, let's look at the homework 3.1, problem number 10. So we want to find the absolute max and absolute min value of this following function, right, on closed interval from 0 to pi over 2. Right, so let's do that. Alright, so first we need to find a derivative, so let's do that. Alright, so when we take the derivative, f prime of t, right, so derivative of 6 cosine of t is negative 6 sine of t, right? And derivative of 3 sine of 2t would be plus 3 cosine of 2t, but you have to multiply by derivative inside, so in this case it's 2. So you would have negative 6 sine of t plus 6 cosine of 2t. Right? Then before we set it equal to each other, we have, actually, I'm going to just pull out maybe a negative, let's see, maybe I'll pull out the negative 6. So you have a sine of t minus cosine of 2t. Right? So we have that. Then let's see, we use the trig identity. So remember that the cosine of 2t is cosine squared of t minus sine squared of t. Since the other guy is sine, so I'm going to use the other one. So I'm going to rewrite cosine squared as 1 minus sine squared of t, but you have another one, so it's going to be there, 2 of them. Right? So we can put that in here. Right, negative 6. Right, so you have sine of t, right, minus 1, and minus, so plus 2 sine squared of t. Right? So this one, if we rearrange it, so you have a 2 sine squared of t plus sine of t minus 1. We can factor this out. So it's a 2 sine of t and a sine of t. Right, so we'll probably put plus 1 here and a minus 1 here. That way, negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. So 2 plus negative 1 is positive 1. Right, so that would work out. Right, so I'm going to just go ahead and set that equal to 0. Right, so that will give us 2 conditions. Right, one would be sine of t, we want it to be 1/2. So sine of t is either 1/2, and or sine of t equals negative 1. Right? Then we can do a unit circle. So let's say if you draw a unit circle like maybe like that, and draw x-axis and draw a y-axis, right? And then you have here is y-axis, here's the x-axis. Actually, maybe I should call it t-axis, right? And actually no, this was x-axis, sorry, and 0. Right, 1, 1, negative 1, negative 1. Right, so remember that sine represents the y-coordinate of the point on the unit circle. So it's 1/2. So 1/2 is somewhere around there. Then you can draw a dotted line to say, so the angle we're looking at, angle T, is going to be, let's see, it's going to be right here. And there's another point here, but you can see that the angle is between 0 and pi over 2, so that's way too big. So this angle right here. All right, this is 30 degrees, so it's going to be pi over 6. So t is equal to pi over 6. So this will give us t equals pi over 6. And this guy gives you, right, sine and -1 is right here. But you can see that the angle is way too big. So it's outside of 0 and between 0 and the pi over 2. So this one we're going to ignore. So we don't get really anything from here. All right. So those are the critical numbers. This is a critical number. All right. So let's go back and answer the question. All right. So we have to put the derivative there. So that was, what was that? -6. Then we had 2 sine of t, so -1. And then we had sine of t plus 1. All right, so let's submit. All right, we got this correctly. And actually, we have these are factors too. So I guess I'm going to just put exactly the same thing. -6. 2 sine of t -1, and then sine of t plus 1. All right, so let's submit. All right, then critical number we found was pi over 6. So it's a Greek letter and a pi over 6. All right, let's submit. All right, now we have to evaluate f at 0, at pi over 6, and at pi over 2. So let's do that. All right, so f of 0 is going to be, right, if you plug in 0, so cosine of 0 is 1, so that will be 6, right? And if you plug in 0, sine of 0 is 0, so it's 6, right? So type that in. So that's 6. All right, then pi over 6. So f of pi over 6 is going to be, all right, cosine of pi over 6 would be, let's see, pi over 6 is 30 degrees, so cosine is, so 6 times square root of 3 over 2, so cosine of pi over 6 is square root 3 over 2, plus 3 times, and let's see, sine of pi over 3, right? Because you have to multiply by 2. So sine of pi over 3 would be, again, square root of 3 over 2. Right? So this is going to be, let's see, so 3 plus 6 and 9, square root of 3 over 2. Right? So let's type that in. 9 times square root of 3 and over 2. Right? And f of pi over 2 would be f of pi over 2. All right, cosine of pi over 2 is 0. And the sine of, let's see, sine of pi would be 0. So this is going to be 0. All right, so this is 0. All right, so let's submit. All right, so we got those, and the absolute minimum is, this one is clear, 0. And 6 and 9 square root of 3 over 2 is, I think it's just 9 square root of 3, square root of 3 over 2 is bigger than 6. So I'll do that. 9 square root of 3 over 2 is the absolute maximum. So let's submit. All right, it came back, and looks like we got both of these guys correctly. All right, that's it. I hope that this was clear.